Welcome back to Talking Wolves for a brand new match preview on the channel. Today we're going to be looking ahead to Wolves' away trip to Fulham at Craven Cottage on Friday evening. Another tough game where Wolves will be hoping to bounce back after a defeat against Bournemouth last weekend. Before we kick off though, big up to our channel partners over at Football Prizes. Another big Wolves prize up for grabs, a signed and framed João Moutinho shirt up for grabs this week. The prize draw ends next Wednesday evening, so be sure to get involved and grab yourself a couple of tickets for that using the link in the description. But today we're going to be looking at the latest team news, my predicted lineup, and of course we'll have the opposition preview later on in the video as well. But a disappointing, frustrating defeat for Wolves last weekend against Bournemouth. It was a game where we looked pretty good in the first half, but as soon as Bournemouth scored, Wolves showed no urgency, no desire, no fight to get anything out of the game. So it was disappointing, especially after the fight back against Southampton and even obviously the victory over Liverpool as well. We look at the table right now. Wolves sat in 15th in the league. Just 3 points ahead of the drop zone. Could have been so different. Could have been in such a better position. Would have actually been sat in 13th ahead of the likes of Forest if we had got a victory. But we play up against Fulham now. It's the first of the next 4 games where against teams currently in the top 8. So it's a really tough run of fixtures for Wolves. Fulham doing very, very well under Marco Silva right now. Sat in 6th place. Had a couple of games extra than the likes of Brighton and Liverpool, but still in a really good position right now. We then play, obviously, Liverpool next week. We play Spurs and Newcastle as well. So really tricky games coming up for Wolves. You would argue that Fulham is possibly the most winnable of the 4, without being disrespectful to them, but it is still going to be an extremely tough game. Luckily for Wolves, I say luckily, Mitrovic sounds like he's going to be out for this game. He's Fulham's top goal scorer at the moment. Had a really strong first half of the season. I think he's on 11 goals so far in the league. So a really good return for him. Still got very capable players. I think with Fulham right now, they're getting goals from different areas. Willian's getting goals. They've got Pereira, who's able to create from set pieces. Carlos Vinicius, who was a player heavily linked with Wolves a few years ago, is a more than adequate backup forward, I believe. So they're a team full of talent right now, and you know they've taken the momentum from last season and really started off quite strongly. Now, in regards to Wolves, Mario Lemina will be back. I think he was a big miss for Wolves last weekend against Bournemouth, and he's dubious sending off against Southampton. His suspension is now over, so he's back available for selection. You would assume he'd come straight back into the side. Boubacar Traoré is back in training, but Lopetegui has said in his press conference today he's still not quite ready. Hwang Hee-chan as well is probably 2 to 3 weeks away from coming back, and I think he'll be another good player to add to the squad. Unsure, obviously, the likes of Pedro Neto, he was out with the squad last week altogether, and still trying to build up his fitness, so you'd assume possibly he may be a part of the squad for Friday's game against Fulham, but we'll, of course, wait and see on that one. Let's jump into my predicted lineup anyway. Again, I think I said it last weekend, that due to the depth and the availability right now of a lot of players, it's such a difficult side to predict, but I'm going to go with Jose Sá, of course, in goal. I'm going to stick with Hugo Bueno at left back, with Kilman and Dawson, with Semedo at right back. Midfield 3, I've put Lemina straight back in there alongside Matheus Nunes and Ruben Neves. This is a difficult one, but I've gone with Cunha left wing, Sarabia right wing, and then Diego Costa up front. Now, this could be so different. I think Lopetegui could so easily stick with Cunha up top and keep Adama in the squad. I thought he had a really positive game last weekend, especially I think away from home. I think Adama on the break could work quite well. But I've gone with this lineup. But let me know your thoughts. I think that, there's so many players in there that could easily get a start. I think being away from home, you want the ball to stick a little bit better up top. So I think you need a bigger player up there. And I think Diego Costa could possibly, provide that. But let me know your thoughts on that one. I think you do need a striker in there. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on Adama Traoré. Podence may well be back in contention as well. But let's wait and see. Of course, we've got the BetMate game as well to get involved in this week. A link to join this is in the top of the description. It's a dedicated game for Fulham versus Wolves. £500 guaranteed prize pots. £5 to enter for your chance to get involved in that prize pot. You've got up until 5 minutes before kickoff to select your team. So you can wait for the lineups to come out and then you can select your team. If you use the code TW10 on sign up, you'll get a £10 bonus when entering your first paid pot as well. My team, I've gone very 50-50, which is very risky, I suppose, in betmate terms, but I've gone with Jose Sarr in goal, Issa Diop and Semedo at the back, João Palhinha in the middle alongside Ruben Neves, and Manus Solomon up top with Adama Traore. Of course, that will be changed. I'd assume one or two of those players may not play. I know I didn't put Adama Traore in my predicted lineup, but I've selected him here. I think he's due a goal or assist, but we can obviously change that up until kickoff. So a link to join the Betmate game is in the top of the description. They've got a brand new game coming out on Friday as well. It's not yet been announced, but make sure you drop them a follow or check out their socials on Friday. I think it's around midday they're dropping that. But I had the privilege of speaking to Dom from the Fulhamish podcast to talk about Fulham's fantastic season so far, Marco Silva and the work he's been doing. And these are his thoughts. So then, delighted to be alongside Dom from the Fulhamish pod once again. Dom, thanks for jumping on Talking Wolves. How are you keeping?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, this season for us has been nothing short of sensational so far. So it's always good to talk about Fulham when your team's doing 10 times better than you thought they would do.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising me as well. We spoke a little bit about it on our podcast this week, and I sort of expected Fulham to be in and around where Wolves are right now. I didn't think you would be doing as well as you are, but Marco Silva's definitely took the momentum from last season and carried it on, and you've had a really good start since the World Cup as well. What's the mood? What's the feeling like around the Fulham fans right now, and what's your take on the season so far?
Yeah, everyone's just delighted the way things are, really. I mean, it's the first time we've been a sort of a competent side in the Premier League, really, since probably about 2011, 2012 is really obviously we had times under Roy Hodgson in the Europa League, then Mark Hughes and Martin Yeo to go from there. So we were sort of competent then, but yeah, since then it's sort of been a tough ride getting back to this stage. Bit similar to when yourselves first came up in the Premier League. Obviously, you guys finished seventh that season, so it's been quite similar to that, really. But yeah, Fulham fans delight the way things going. Everyone's sort of united. The board and the manager seem aligned. Everyone's behind the manager, obviously. And this season, as you said, it's just been taking that momentum from last season into this season, really, and pushing on from there. We were like, oh, we had the good start. You know, we drew to Liverpool, we drew to you guys, we beat Brentford. Yeah. And then it sort of just went strength to strength from there. And obviously we went into the World Cup break on two sort of devastating defeats, really, two last-minute winners to both Manchester teams, home and away. And we thought, we don't know how they're going to bounce back from the World Cup. But I think since we've come back from the World Cup, I think only Manchester United have got more points. I think we've won the most games. So, yeah, we've sort of just continued on from there. And, you know, now Fulham fans are actually starting to look at what we can achieve this year. You know, at times we're like, oh, we're getting the points early on the table here. That's good to see in case we do see a drop-off. We haven't seen that. So Fulham fans are starting to look at, can we finish in the European places? Can we get a good cup run? Because we're still in the FA Cup as well. So, yeah, I think Fulham fans are just absolutely delighted and can't quite believe where we are at this stage in the season.
Yeah, still obviously a portion of the season to go, but you're in a good position right now. I know Brighton and Liverpool and so on have got games in hand on you, but I think there's definitely, you know, if you keep this momentum and consistency up, Fulham have definitely got a chance of doing that. And it happened to Wolves when we got promoted, took advantage of a couple of teams slipping off a little bit. And I think if Chelsea and Liverpool stay the way that they are, Fulham have got every chance of, you know, getting European football, which is, I'm sure, for you guys. And I know, Dom, you like your away days in Europe and so on as well. So that would be brilliant for you as well. Marco Silva as well. He's never really found his feet in the Premier League. He's been at a number of teams, never really had much success. Took over you guys, and he's been doing brilliantly. What's your thoughts on him so far?
Yeah, Marco Silva, I think, is the key to what we've been doing this season. We could see it last season. You know, we were so much better than we had been in previous promotion campaigns. The two previous promotion campaigns before last season was through the playoffs, and I think the second one was quite lucky. I think we just outdid Brentford tactically in the final, whereas last season we were scoring goals for fun. We ended up winning the league, and you know, I think Marco Silva's adapted to the Premier League really well. I think he's changed the way we've been playing. We didn't just stick with the same sort of way we were playing. We were a lot more defensively solid, which I think is something that's a really good addition to the team this year. I think that how solid we are at the back. And, it's nice to see just the same back four, back five playing really under different managers previously in the Premier League. We've chopped and changed. I remember when we came up on the same season you guys did under Slavisa Jokanovic, we played about 8 or 9 different back fours in the first sort of 12 games. So I think that's the sort of, we've had a back, mainly back five, if you look at including the goalkeeper, Bernd Leno, Kene Tete, Tim Ream, either one of Tosin and Issa Diop and Anthony Robinson, with the
Yeah.
likes of João Palhinha in front of him. So I think that it's sort of consistency has been the key for us this season. The team works as a unit, and I think that's been the main thing. You can speak about certain individuals, sort of the likes of Mitrovic with the goals, the likes of João Palhinha in holding midfield, but I think the team as a cohesive unit this season has been one of the main factors behind us, our sort of charge up the table. I don't think we're doing anything amazing or spectacular. I just think we're doing the basics right. And this season, there's plenty of teams who aren't doing the basics right. You're looking at Chelsea. I know Liverpool won their last 2 games, but you've been looking at for the majority of the season, even down the bottom teams like Everton and West Ham, who've previously done fairly well. So, and when it comes to sort of Marco Silva and why it's different this time round, I think he's learned his lessons. I think he's understood what he's done wrong in previous campaigns at Watford and at Everton. I know at Everton he did have an 8th place finish, and I don't think they finished higher since, but it wasn't consistent enough, and I think that's what he got at Fulham. He's found consistency. So yeah, I think Marco Silva's learned his lessons. I think our board have learned their lessons in regard to recruitment, and I think it's sort of merged together to create this great campaign for Fulham so far.
Yeah, I think one of the keys are as well. I know Mitrovic is the main guy. He's going to get the goals, but he's not the only one scoring. I think, you're getting goals from other areas of the pitch. Your wingers are chipping in as well, which I think is key. When Mitrovic is injured, suspended, or, not quite on it, you've still got a backup of players whereas Wolves just can't get goals from anywhere right now. And again, that's something that we speak about quite often. One of the players that you mentioned there, Dom, João Palhinha, I think we spoke about him a little bit at the start of the season, but obviously you've had a lot longer to see him now. A player that was linked with Wolves for so long, for whatever reason, we didn't go for him. But from the outside, it looks like he's having a really, really good campaign for you guys. What's your thoughts on Palhinha so far?
Yeah, I'd argue he's been our player of the season so far. He's so key to the way we play, just breaking up play in the 6th position, and it allows Harrison Reed, who's previous played the defensive midfield for Fulham in championship campaigns, to play more of a box-to-box role, and I think that suits him a lot better. Yes, he's going to pick up yellow cards, but I think that just comes with the way we play. He's got 9 yellow cards, so he's only 1 away from a 2-game suspension, but I think he's made 20 more tackles than anyone else in the division, which is absolutely crazy. I think he's got 99 tackles this season, which shows he's got a job to do in the team, and he does it so well. He's probably the best midfielder we've had in the team, probably since we had Moussa Dembele and we sold him to Spurs, I'd say. He's been that critical for us this season, and when he doesn't play, we don't really have someone who can come in and cover. We signed Lukic from Torino in January. We haven't really seen too much of him apart from a couple of substitute appearances. So, yeah, but João Palhinha, it's mad looking at it now that us two were the only 2 teams interested in him in the summer. You look at a team like Liverpool, you look at a team even before Man United signed Casemiro, and he's exactly the type of player these big teams need to just sit in the defensive midfield position and break up play. Thankfully, we signed him on a fairly long-term deal. So if a team does want to come in for him in the summer and take him off our hands, they're going to have to pay a pretty premium for it. But yeah, João Palhinha, I think if you ask most Fulham fans, he's probably been our player of the season so far.
Are there any worries amongst the Fulham fan base that he might leave this summer? Say, for argument's sake, if you do drop off a little bit and miss out on Europe, do you think a bigger team could come in for him?
I think a bigger team would come in, but I don't know if a bigger team would come in and pay the fee that Fulham are going to demand, because I think he signed a 5-year deal when we signed him. He's not exactly like an early 20s. He's a late 20s aged midfielder. So, but I think, we signed him for 20, 25 million pounds. I think if a team's going to come and take him off France, you're looking at 40 million plus just because of how long's left on his deal. It'd be devastating to see him leave, but I think I know going by a player's social media is not the best gauge I've seen, but he seems happy at the club. I think one thing that does help Fulham a lot is where Fulham are based geographically.
Yeah, for sure.
I think being based in London and being based in the area of London, which we are, it gives players that sort of style of life that a lot of players want to have. I think that's why you're seeing Willian do so well, because he knows the area so well. And so I think that's one big factor that at Fulham that you don't get necessarily other clubs like Burnley and Middlesbrough to come up this season. I don't think they're going to have the same sort of attraction of living in London and living in West London that Fulham can offer, which is a massive plus for us. And that's why we've seen over the years, not just this season, but in Premier League seasons past, the likes of Dimitar Berbatov, Brian Ruiz, Moussa Dembele, we've seen these players come to the club because of what we can offer beyond football. But I don't think Pellegrini would leave in the summer. I think that he sees a project here at Fulham. He likes working under Marco Silva and Luis Boa. I think that Portuguese link really is a big factor. So yeah, I think he's happy at the club, and I think he's definitely going to be at least for another season. If he has another storm of a season after this year, then maybe we could see him move on. But I think just because of the fee it would cost to take him away from the club, I think we'll see him at Craven Cottage for at least another 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, we've been speaking for the last 4 or 5 years about Ruben Neves, and he's still at the club, and he's close to sort of club legend status now. So fingers crossed for you guys. Obviously, he can stay put. And how are Fulham sort of setting up, Dom, formation-wise, style-wise? How's Marco Silva got you playing?
So we've been mainly playing a 4-2-3-1 all season long. Really, the system hasn't really changed. You've got the back four and goalkeeper with the fullbacks bombing on. You've got João Palhinha sitting in front of that back four, breaking up play. Then you've got Harrison Reed playing in the number 8 position, box to box midfielder, linking play between João Palhinha and then Andreas Pereira in the 10, who's been another superb signing for us. I think getting goal contributions from that number 10 position has been something we found hard to find. But I think he's got 2 goals and 6 assists, which is decent numbers. Then you've got sort of 2 inside forwards allowing the fullback to sort of bomb on. That we've mainly been playing Willian and Bobby Reed, but in recent weeks you've seen Manor Solomon come off the bench and grab a couple of goals as well, and it was coming back from his long-term injury. And then Mitrovic up front as a target man, holding the ball up, and if he's not playing, it's been predominantly Carlos Vinicius. Bobby Reed did play through the middle, starting against Brighton, but we did bring Carlos Vinicius on in the second half. So it's mainly been sort of like a hold-up player with 3 players in behind, and then a deep line 6 with box 8, and we haven't really veered from that system this season, and it seems to be working wonders for Marco Silva. We seem to have a system that suits the players that we've got really well, and I think that's one thing that's been key, as I mentioned earlier. It's just that consistency in the system and in the players that we've been playing this season. And yeah, I think even when players are unavailable, other players seem to come in, the likes of Cabano before he got injured, Harry Wilson's coming in recent games. The system doesn't really seem to differ, and the players know the system so well that players can dip in and out and other players that can come in. So it's not exactly we're going to be springing any surprises on Friday night, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I think that was the key with Nuno when we first got into the Premier League. I think we did so well because every week you could pretty much guarantee or predict what team he was going to play, and the consistency was key with that sort of 5 at the back that he played. Pretty much all of those back 5, always played every week, and I think that is key. You're unbeaten in the last 3, Dom. Wins in the last 2. What do you think this Friday? What's your score prediction for the match?
So, I mean, going into the game, I think our record in general is very, very good this season against teams who are below us in the table. I think we've only lost to one team who are sat below us in the table, and that was a 3-1 loss to West Ham. That's the only team outside the top 5 who've actually beaten us this season. And if you look at the games we have lost, apart from Newcastle, they've been close games. We lost in the last minute away to Arsenal. We lost 2-1 away to Spurs and 1-0 at home to Spurs, 2 again, 1 goal deficits. Newcastle United, City, again, was the loss by 1 goal. So we've not really been outclassed by anyone this season, bar in that home game to Newcastle. So Fulham fans will be very confident going into this game. And, as I said, our form since the restart of the Premier League season has been so good that Fulham fans will be going into this game looking for 3 points. If we beat Brighton away from home and beat Forest, who've been on good form to start World Cup at home, but they're going to be confident going into this game. So I think if I'm looking at this game, I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. No, of course I don't. It's a game in the Premier League. But I think that with Fulham, it'll be similar actually to when we played Southampton at home. Just after the Christmas break. I think it was on New Year's Eve where we didn't play to our best, but we still sort of ground out the result. And I think that's what we're going to do. I think, again, there's been a slight resurgence with Wolves in the last few games. We've seen Wolves scoring more goals than usual with the 3, obviously, against Liverpool, the 2 against Southampton. So I think, I think Fulham can win this game, but I think Wolves will score as well. So I think Fulham will just edge it 2-1.
Yeah, I think that's a very safe bet, Dom. I always tend to go with a 2-1 as well. I'll make sure I leave a link to Dom's socials and the Fulhamish pod in the description down below as well. Dom, apart from Friday, all the best for the rest of the season, mate, and I'll chat to you soon.
You too, Dave, mate.
So a big thanks to Dom. You could check out his socials and the Fulhamish podcast in the description down below. Going to be a really tricky game, guys. Tough game, close game. I think I would take a point at this moment in time just to try and, get ourselves back on a certain level. But I think with the tricky games coming up, 3 points would be huge. Obviously ahead of a trip to Anfield. I know we beat Liverpool so comfortably, but you just don't know which Liverpool team are going to turn up right now. So if we can get 3 points at Craven Cottage, that would be a huge, huge bonus. And big shout out to Talking Wolves fan Ben as well. Young lad, I saw his video reading out the results on BBC WM. Fantastic to see. I know he watches the channel. So fingers crossed we get 3 points for you, Ben. And yeah, guys, be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you all next time.